Welcome to Advent of Tessellations 2024. My name is Madonna Yoder, and you're joining hundreds of folders around the world on this 25-day journey into the infinite world of repeating patterns folded from a single sheet of paper. You'll discover many different twists in this challenge, building up to advanced patterns with hybrid hexagon twists. On the second day of Advent of Tessellations, we're folding this pattern that's the same on both sides and uses both closed and open triangle twists. Now, this might seem like a large jump in difficulty from day one, but since we're using 24 grid divisions instead of 12, we can space things out enough so that we don't run into as difficult of steps early on. So let's jump in. As I mentioned, we're using 24 grid divisions, and I have a tutorial for that grid in the welcome video, at least the welcome video that you'll see if you sign up for email reminders as each of these tutorials is coming out. So the first thing I'm going to do is locate the center of the paper, and I'll mark it with an A on this side. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. Notice I've rotated so I have a direction of grid lines going straight up and down. And if you are less familiar with folding tessellations, I do actually recommend using a pen or pencil to mark these lines on your paper as you're folding to help you find all of the reference points. So what we're going to look for right now is that two grid spacings to the right of the A, of the center point. I'm going to have a mountain fold going up. And I drew this fairly specifically in this wedge of grid lines coming off of the center and slightly above. And then for our valley fold of this twist, we're going to have our valley two spaces in this direction from the center point. And that valley fold is going to go up and to the left. And there's going to be a mountain fold one space away from the valley. So those mountain folds are going to meet, and they're going to form a three-way intersection of mountain folds. Since we're going to be twisting the set of folds around and squashing it into a closed triangle twist, this is all of the information that I need to know to fold the twist. Where the three mountain folds are meeting, what direction those mountain folds are in, and which side of one of the mountain folds there is a valley fold. So in order to fold this, I'll pick up the paper and find the three mountain folds, picking them up as mountain folds, pinching them together. And I want to make sure that I'm not pressing this back onto the table until I see which way these mountain folds are laying over, because from here on out, and really the first day also, we never see a mountain fold on its own. It's always paired with a valley fold one grid spacing away. So this mountain fold went this way, this one is going to lay down on top, this one is going to lay down on top of that, creating a spiral that I call a right-handed twist. So this is the right-handed twisting direction. For our next twist, we'll see the left-handed twisting direction. And from here, we can go ahead and press. So I did that rather quickly, lifting back up. I'm pressing. Really, I'm thinking about making my pleats go flat. And you'll notice as I'm pressing closer and closer, it's adding stress to the center. And I want to press just outside of where the valley from one direction hits the mountain of the other. if I'm trying to hold on to the center, it's not going to be able to spread apart as I squash. And from there, I can use my bone folder to smooth out the twist. Next, I'm going to grab, notice where the A is, where the twist is. I'm grabbing the vertical pleat and flipping over from left to right. So I can identify now my center point on this side, which I can also identify if I zoom out a little bit by coming in from corners in multiple directions. So now that I've identified that center point, I'm going to mark this one B. So now you have orientation on both sides of the paper. I'm going to be placing closed triangle twists on both of these pleats that are going around the center and not on the pleat going out to the corner relative to the center point. Of course, all three of these pleats are hitting the edge of the paper, but two of them are neighboring this region where the center point is, and one of them is not. So my reference for these folds is that I'm going to be coming 2 grid spaces out from the closed triangle hole from the other side. And the size of this hole is why we call twists closed versus open. This hole is a single point, therefore it belongs to a closed twist. So notice, if I want to make a 3-way intersection of mountain folds to form a closed triangle twist at that point, it looks like I would be picking this grid line 1 space away from B, the center point. But when I open the pleat instead, and then find my points. So now that we're done with the first twist, we always want to find where our pleats are relative to the center of the twist, not to the corners of the paper. Now that I've found my 3 mountain folds, this mountain is actually 2 spaces from point B. And so I'll show that again really quick. I've counted 2 spaces out from the closed hole. I'm opening the extension of the mountain fold, of really both folds of the pleat that pass that point that I marked. And I'm filling up 2 new mountain folds that are coming into this point. These folds have even spacing around this point concerning the directions of the grid. So mountain fold on one direction, then not on the next, mountain fold on the subsequent direction, not on the next, then mountain fold, then nothing. And these are going to twist around following the cue of the pleat that's already in place. So that one is going that way. So we need to match and match. And now these folds are all going around in a left-handed direction. So the handedness of the twist is based on when you have your thumb up in the air and in the center of the twist, then your fingers are curling around in the direction the folds are folding over. And the twists on opposite sides of the same pleat are going to be curling around in different directions. So we can see this is still a right-handed twist when we flip the paper over, and this one is left-handed. So that's a property that does not change when you flip the paper over. It feels like it should, But since when you flip the paper over, you've both mirrored the crease pattern and exchanged all the mountains for valleys, you've swapped the rotational sense twice, and therefore you haven't swapped it at all. So that's the first twist on the backside here. For the second one, we have the same reference. We're going 2 spaces out from our closed hole and opening the existing pleat back until we hit our target intersection point, setting up our 2 new mountain folds and rotating around. This one will also be left-handed because it's coming off of a pleat from a right-handed twist. And press and squash. Sometimes I like to use my bone folder to smooth out the pleats going out to the edge of the paper. One caveat with that is that you want to make sure that all of your folds are still on grid lines before you apply any pressure to them. So the valley folds underneath have a sneaky way of sliding off the grid lines, particularly if you're using a weaker paper or if you didn't press the grid lines when you were gridding very hard. So I'll hold on to this pair of parallel pleats in my right hand as I flip over, keeping those in my right hand. You can see that A is now upside down. And I'm going to choose, since we have enough spacing, to fold these next twists one at a time instead of setting up both the top and bottom twists and then having a triangle wrap in between. We'll get to the triangle wrap by the end of this tutorial, but I know that that's a stumbling block for a lot of people, and so I'm going to delay it until the end. So on this side also, we have the same reference of from a closed hole, we're coming 2 spaces out to find the center of our next closed triangle twist. And then we will open the existing pleat and erase that pleat entirely up until our target intersection point. And then we will find our new mountain folds, and paying attention to how our existing mountain fold is laying down over its paired valley, we can determine how our remaining mountain folds need to lay down, and then sliding our fingers in and pressing down along the pleats, we can squash our new closed triangle twist. From here, I want to add the closed triangle on this bottom plate while I'm on this side of the paper. But that's going to be a little difficult given the existing layout. So what I'm going to do instead is grab that pleat overlap, flip over to the other side of the paper. So now I'm back on the B side, and I'm going to come 2 spaces out from the closed hole on this side and set up the triangle twist over here first before returning to the other side. In order to do that, I'll need to open this pleat and leaving the horizontal pleat closed, I'll find the remaining folds of my closed triangle twist, and this will create an overlap coming back and creating an accordion fold under the existing pleat from an earlier triangle. Now, if you already know how to make a triangle wrap, you're welcome to go ahead and do that here. But for the purposes of teaching new skills slowly, I'm going to wait to teach that in this video until the very end. And then we can squash our new closed triangle twist and flip back to the A side. I've got this overlap of pleats in here that I'm going to open up. And I notice as I'm opening that up, so it was stuck like this, I'm opening the initial pleat, being careful not to open so far that I undo the previous twist, and then open the second pleat, and I see that the intersection of these two mountain folds is 2 spaces away from both of their respective closed holes. So that is going to be the center of my new twist, and I'll have my third mountain fold going out to the edge. From there, I can squash the new twist and continue folding. I'll stick to the A side right now, and we're going to learn a new twist, the open triangle twist, or open equilateral triangle. We won't see the right triangle in this series because we're only working on equilateral triangle grids, but I just wanted to clarify that distinction. So this open right triangle will share a corner with the closed right triangle, and whenever we see a twist that shares a corner with the other twist, or really whenever we know where the corner of a twist is, we know that a valley fold needs to come to that point. Just like the valley folds under these closed triangle twists are coming straight to the corners. And if you want to mark some things on your paper but not have it be particularly visible, the valley folds are great things to mark because they always get covered. So we're going to have a valley fold coming straight down on this one grid direction that's visible between the closed triangle twist and the existing mountain fold. And then we're going to have a mountain fold 1 spacing further out than that. So if we were folding a closed triangle twist, our mountains would all be meeting at that point. But with the open triangle twist, we're going to have our third direction of mountain fold on this grid line. So again, we don't want to try to pinch this while the pleat is still folded. Instead, we're going to open the pleat and find our new grid line. So the reason for that is 2 reasons. First, if this pleat is still folded, then instead of having this line be mountain the whole way, it would get kind of trapped into a valley. And second, you end up finding a different grid line if you try to find it while the pleat is still closed. So once again, in order to find the twist, we open the existing pleat to locate our third direction of mountain fold. We'd already found the second by noticing where the corner needed to be. And then this third one helps us outline 1 grid triangle. So that's our cue. For the closed triangle, the mountains all come to a single point. For the open triangle, the mountains come around 1 grid triangle. And the difference between these 2 twists is shifting the third pleat 1 spacing over. So with that in place, we can go ahead and squash a new twist. From here, I want to continue on this mountain fold. So not the one that has a parallel fold right next to it, one grid spacing away, but the one that has the parallel fold further away. And once again, I'm going to have the corner of my new twist right next to the corner of the existing twist. The way that this tessellation is set up is we have clusters of 4 triangle twists where we have one open twist in the center and 3 closed twists off of the corners. So this open twist needs 2 more closed triangles. We're going to put just one of them and work our way all the way around before adding the last one. Since the corner of the new twist is going to touch the corner of the existing twist, we're going to have a valley fold come straight to that corner, and then a mountain fold one space away. With those in place, we can erase the extension of the original mountain fold past the intersection point to find the 3rd direction of mountain fold, and then this corner has to stay down on its valley. We already marked our valley on this side, and then our 3rd pleat is going to set up in place there. And then we can squash our new closed triangle twist. And one thing that I hadn't mentioned yet is that when you're squashing these open triangle twists, you want to be pressing again on the pleats just outside of where the valleys hit. That's true of any twist. And in this situation, that's going to be like right on top of the existing twist where the corner is going to meet. And we'll see that situation again shortly, so I can show you kind of in real time. So now we have an overlap of pleats. And my general heuristic when I'm folding origami tessellations is we want to follow the overlaps and resolve them to get to stopping points that have no overlaps. So I'm going to grab that overlap in my right hand as I flip the paper over. I'm keeping this on my right hand side because I am right-handed and it's a little easier for me to work on that side. Now I want to open up this overlap, and what I'm going to get is an open twist in here and a closed twist over here. We can go ahead and draw out some of the folds of these twists. So I'll draw the valley all the way across. This valley is going from the tip of the closed triangle twist over to one spacing out from the closed hole on the other side. And where there's a valley, there must be a mountain one spacing away. Here, the mountain is hitting 2 spaces out from the closed hole on the other side. That's going to be our closed twist. And then on this side next to the closed twist on the same side, we're going to outline this grid triangle with our mountain folds for the open twist. So as I'm opening these pleats, I can open the one coming from the closed hole first, and I can go ahead and find the 3 mountain folds that feed into the closed triangle twist. Then I want to open the mountain coming from the closed triangle on the same side so I can find the correct grid line that outlines this grid triangle in the center of the open twist. And then we can start laying our pleats down. What I want to do here, notice I've laid this pleat so that the valley is further out from the outlined grid triangle than the mountain. That's going to be true of all twists in general. Anytime you have an open shape in the middle, the valley is further away from that shape than the mountain. Makes it pretty easy to determine where the pleats are laid down. On this one up above, we have the pleat from the existing twist that we were very careful not to take out. And then this pleat going out to the edge, when we're twisting, it will be flipped over this way. But in order to squash the open twist, I would rather flip that pleat so that we're laying this three-way intersection down before we eventually squash it into a closed triangle twist. Then I can push, and notice I'm pushing just outside of one spacing away from the corner of the outline triangle. I never want to be pinching there because that will prevent the twist from spreading out all the way into the corners. So from there, we can flip the pleat going out to the edge of the closed triangle and squash the closed triangle as well. From here, we're going to get into some repetitions. It might feel a little bit different because all of the twists that we see on the A side are the opposite rotational sense from the twist that we see on the B side. So on the A side, the open triangle twists are left-handed, but on the B side, they're right-handed. And the closed triangle twists on the B side are left-handed, but on the A side, the closed twists are right-handed. So you'll notice that I'm talking more in terms of let's respect the pleat that's coming into this twist, and less in terms of I know that this twist is this handedness. And that's because that's how I'm thinking about it as I'm folding. So coming out from this open triangle twist, we're going to continue around. We've got this pleat that needs another closed triangle on it. And that closed triangle will come straight to the corner of the open triangle. So our valley fold is going to be right there coming off of our open triangle corner. Our mountain fold is going to be one space further, and that's making contact with the existing mountain fold. So as we set that up, we get another pleat overlap down below, and we're erasing the existing pleat to locate our third pleat direction and squash our new twist. From here, I'll grab the pleat overlap and flip the paper over so that stays in my right hand. Now we're going to do things that sound very familiar from the other side of the paper, but remember I mentioned that all of the twists will be the opposite twist direction, so it might seem a little bit different than what you've seen before. I've got my valley coming straight down from the corner of the closed triangle twist. My mountain will be one spacing further. That mountain hits two spaces away from a closed triangle hole, so that's going to be the center of a closed triangle twist. And then my open triangle twist is going to have its third mountain one space back from the intersection of the two mountain folds that we would use if it was going to be a closed twist. So opening up the pleat that opens first, we can define the folds for the closed twist, and notice I've already flipped this pleat over so it's easier to close down. And then opening the pleat from the closed triangle on the same side, I need to open it before I can identify the proper mountain fold going into this open triangle twist. And then laying that pleat down, I'm going to apply pressure just outside of all three corners, laying all of these pleats down flat to squash my new twist. Now I can flip the pleat for the closed twist and squash. So everything in my verbal description was exactly the same as what I described on the other side of the paper, even though these two twists have the opposite rotational senses as what we saw on the other side. So now it's time to add the third closed triangle around our open triangle there. And so we've got our valley coming right to the corner, our mountain one spacing out. We're creating a pleat overlap up above and erasing the existing mountain fold to find the third direction of mountain fold, of mountain and valley really, of the pleat, and then squashing our closed triangle twist and grabbing the pleat overlap. With my right hand, I'll flip the paper over. So I'm going to start moving a little bit faster and use a little bit less of the pen. You do have that first set of repeats that we did on both sides of the paper. So you can go back to those repeats if you'd rather see the exact steps once again. So when I'm opening up this pleat overlap, I'm looking for a closed twist on the side that's coming from the triangle twist on the other side, and an open twist on the side coming from the triangle on this side. I'm pinching the three-way intersection for the closed twist shut and laying it flat while I squash the open twist. And then I'll flip the pleat back over to squash the closed twist. From there, I'll go to the remaining pleat coming out of the open twist and put a closed twist on it. And now I have a pleat overlap that I will grab with my right hand as I flip over and open the overlap to find my closed twist closest to the closed hole and my open twist closest to the closed twist on this same side. Laying the closed side down as a pleat intersection, I'll squash the open twist and then flip the pleat back to squash the closed twist. And then fold a new closed triangle twist just off the corner of the open triangle twist. This has a pleat overlap where one pleat is crossing two parallel pleats, and I'll flip over with those in my right hand. The overlap that I'm opening is this latest pleat that I put in, and just the top of those two parallel pleats. The bottom one stays folded the whole time, and my new pleat for the open triangle twist crosses, creating a new pleat overlap. Okay, so now it's time for the triangle wrap, that move that I put off until now, so that it wouldn't block you from completing the rest of the tessellation. So if this is particularly challenging of a move for you, do keep in mind that we will be using it in the videos moving forward. But if it is particularly challenging, you can go back to how I finished going around the center, where I flipped over to the other side of the paper, put in the closed twist on that side, and then returned to the side that I was originally working on. But what I want to show you now is a triangle wrap, and when you're folding, especially patterns with all triangle twists or patterns with hexagon and triangle twists, this is a lifesaver. Really, any pattern on an equilateral triangle grid where twists are on opposite sides of the paper. This is a lifesaver. So with the triangle wrap, we're going to be setting up a closed triangle twist on this side and then setting up the three-way intersection of folds that's laying down flat on the other side at the same time. I'm going to have my valley fold for the new twist coming down out of the corner of the open triangle, my mountain fold one spacing away. Got that existing mountain fold also. What I'm going to do when I open this overlap, the first thing I've done is erase the existing mountain fold that was coming through here. The second thing I want to do is pop this valley fold down until it makes contact with the existing valley fold down below. Those two are going to Y and send a new valley fold out to the edge. But that valley fold going to the edge is all alone. It needs some company. And so we're going to have a mountain fold coming along next to it. So I extended this mountain that's parallel to my valley that's crossing the existing mountain in there. And just like we saw at the beginning of day one, this mountain on top is going to Y over the Y of valleys below. So that is going to close around. I'll mark the additional main fold in here. So we've got pleats coming in and around, and up top here we have our three intersecting mountain folds that are turning into a closed triangle twist. Now I know I set that up in a way that made it look easy. This is a move that my students routinely struggle with until it clicks. But once it clicks, it is super useful. So now we have our cluster complete on this side, and when we flip over to the other side, there is that triangle, that three-way intersection waiting for us. So by the way, if your folds don't want to click in place from the other side, you can always flip over and make sure that everything is on grid lines from this side, and then lay it down and go back and squash the twist on the other side. And then once you're here, you take this mountain fold going out to the edge and flip it so the valley is on the opposite side to squash the new twist. And there you are, done with day 2 of Advent of Tess. So we've got on our A side 3 of these clusters of 4 triangle twists, and on the B side we have those same clusters but in the opposite rotational sense as the ones on the A side. So to get this pattern to repeat, what you can do is look down at another cluster and say, okay, what should happen off of here? Well, on this cluster, what happened off of there? So you already have enough information in this amount of pattern to say, okay, what happens off of here? Well, let's take a look over here. What happened? Or look down here. What happened? And so in this area, we'll actually see a repeat of the very center. These kinds of patterns have a lot of variety that you can use. You don't need to strictly have the same cluster on different sides. For the patterns we'll be working with in Advent of Tess this year, they all will be using the same structure on both sides. But I can go into like a multi-hour spiel on this, and you can find videos elsewhere on my YouTube channel of me talking about this for a long time. But yeah, there's so many different patterns that can be made with only triangle twists. Tomorrow's pattern actually takes that back even further and says there are many patterns that can be made with only closed triangle twists. So this one is a more complex structure, which is why I held it for day 3 instead of day 2. We're going to be seeing a lot more twists, and we'll actually have the same 6 twists in the center, but then we'll change how those interact with the repeating pattern. So happy folding, everyone. Don't forget to share photos of what you folded on Instagram or Facebook or wherever else you'd like to share them, and tag me at Gathering Folds and use hashtag Advent of Tess or Advent of Tess 24 to let me see what you're folding. And also, one of the coolest things about Origami Tessellations is seeing them with light shining through them, which is why I chose my favorite paper to be able to backlight. So one really neat thing about this pattern is when you backlight, you get that little star in the middle in the negative space. So that's really cool. All right, happy folding, everyone, and see you in day 3 of Advent of Tess.